jobs I had in Mexico. On, on on the other side of the screen is the jobs I had in Canada. So for the Mexico side, I started in finance, then I was an EA for a plant manager, procurement, customer service, planning, ERP, and more planning. When I moved to Canada, it was more related to project management, trade customization for the people that are in the CPG industry, planning, supply chain execution, systems, data, more planning, and now currently in logistics. So as you can see, this is a career path, and this is what I'm trying to highlight here a little bit in terms of ladder progression, where you follow a bit of a linear path upstream. I think what the suggestion here is, do not discount opportunities at the same level, or do not be afraid to say yes to opportunities that are outside, of your regular career path, that you will be like, well, I actually don't have project management experience, but you need to start somewhere in order to get that project management experience. And then once you get into project management, so for example, I was in project management, and maybe a year into project management, I felt that I didn't, I have learned a lot on the job, and that's kind of one of the ways you learn on the job. But I felt that I needed something more specific, to that particular field. So I ended up going to PMI, the Project Management Institute, and acquiring a PMP, a project management professional credential. And then I stayed in that path for another 2 or 3 years. So that really allowed me to not just get a certification for the sake of getting a certification, but actually get a certification and apply that knowledge into what I was doing every single day. Okay, so a little bit of like my background, my career path. So how did I integrate into the Canadian workplace? So like, I'm not gonna tell you the story of how I got here 15 years ago. It's a very long story, and we don't have the time. But when I got here 15 years ago, I got here with Johnson and Johnson, the company I was working for in Mexico. So to make a long story short, I was working there in medical devices, and I got a job here in consumer packaged goods. By the time I got a job, I had already a permanent residency, so that I didn't ask the company to do any processes for me. Like I was already a Canadian permanent resident living in Mexico. So I moved, I got on my first few days in the job, and I was so used to the way that the way I was working before, which was basically for a lot of American companies. So here I am, I'm in Canada in my first few days on the job, and I'm like, okay, how different would it be, that the way I deal with my American counterparts, and as some of you know, is very different. It's like totally not even the same realm of culture. So my early challenges when I started is like, I didn't understand the Canadian culture. I had a lack of understanding. And what did I do, to be able to overcome the challenge, right? So for example, I'm very observant. So I was looking, for example, that when before I was just kind of barged into my boss's office, as I was working again for American bosses, you can just barge in. It's like, if the door is open, it's like, you're welcome, right? You just go right in. And I noticed that when the first time I did that, my Canadian boss, looked at me like, actually, she didn't even look at me. She was talking to someone else, and I just came in, and she kept talking to someone else, and it was like I wasn't acknowledged. And finally, she looked at me and said, like, yes, Alma, how can I help you? But I felt that I interrupted them. So looking at my peers, they were like standing on the door sill, and waiting, for you to acknowledge them and invite them in, and this is something that I know it might sound funny to us, but that's the way it is. It's a very respectful culture. Even when people have meetings in my office, and I always tell them, just wait for me, like, take a seat, right? Like, I have two chairs right there in my office. They never do. Everyone waits in the door sill, and then just wait for you to come in, and it's like, okay, yeah, please come in, and then they come in, right? So they don't just barge in as I did. Being open to feedback and change. I got some feedback, on the way I was going about things. And, it's just kind of, although it kind of stings a little bit, to be honest, we're all human, right? So it hurts a little bit to hear that we're not necessarily meeting the mark, but, we're not perfect. So we do have to listen and embrace that change. The small talk, some of you might be, very much aware that in Canada, the small talk is really valued. I was coming again from more like an American culture, funny enough, as I was working for American companies most of my life before I came to Canada. So in the American culture, time is money, and there's no time for niceties. You come in, you have an agenda, and, you talk about the topics and you go, you leave, right? No, not here. Here, sometimes you have to take the first, and I allocate the time now, but then the beginning I was like, can we get to the topic, and everyone is talking about the hockey game and the cottage and vacations and things that they have planned. And you know what? Like I have it after 15 years, I'm very used to it. But at the beginning, I was like, oh, I wish we got to the topic. But and then another thing is like share more about myself, and that's something that I wasn't really used to, but I felt that it helped my peers relate with me better, right? Because you think about it, like they're well, indeed, we're immigrants from many places, of the world, so we're a little foreign to them, right? So like the more they understand, the more we can share our similarities, the better integration we can achieve. Okay. Um, I had to learn to better express my ideas to influence other people and use executive summaries. So what happened there, I think I would say I would say the Hispanic culture can be a little, I would say, verbose sometimes, like, and I had to, the people in the highest levels of the organization, they don't have a lot of time. They want you like be bright and be gone, like tell me what I need to know, and then I have a lot of other things on the go. So in order to do that, because of course you come from another country, English is not our first language, right? So I listened to a lot of audiobooks, and that helped me really with the structure, with the how to organize the words, and how to sound a little more like a native speaker, or how to enunciate better, because again, Hispanics, we do tend to speak very fast, and very, like we have a cadence that is very fast, and so how to slow down a little bit, etc., right, to make sure that everyone can understand. And then I also observe and learn how other people presented their ideas and summarize effectively. Again, observing other people and how they, maybe what it took me 8 slides to present, in PowerPoint, 8 slides, someone else might do it in one, and I was like, wow, like that is a very nice template. There's a 4 box, and maybe I can use that next time, right? Instead of wasting like people's time with 8 slides. To be honest, another challenge I had was that they didn't know who I was. They didn't know if they could trust me with more responsibilities, right? So what I had to do in order to overcome this challenge is basically said yes to every project I was assigned to, and there was a time where I was pregnant with our third child. I delivered my third child, and 4 months later, my former boss called and said, Alma, we have a project, and we'll love to have you back even 3 days a week. Is that something that you might want to consider? And I was just happy that I have had 4 months with my daughter, versus in Mexico, I guess you have like only a month and a half. So I was like, yeah, I'm already ahead. I had 4 months, and the next 3 months is going to be only part time. So I said yes to that. And then work hard, right? And ensure that you deliver consistent results. That will be another key thing I had to do. Again, no one knew who I was, so I had to gain the support of my coworkers. I had to collaborate with them, and I really made an effort to get to know them. I had lunch with them. I offered my help even when I had nothing to ask of them. Just being generous with my time, with my knowledge, and that way I started building strong coalitions. Now, in Mexico, I was very used to a more hierarchical and formal workplace. And here I realized that Canada is a very democratic and very inclusive workplace. So sometimes we have folks in I don't know the composition of the audience, but we have folks from countries that are very hierarchical, extremely hierarchical, and I'm being like, no sir, no madam, yes sir, yes madam, and here it doesn't go. It doesn't work like that. Everyone wants to be called by their names, and that's it. It's informal that way, and very democratic. We like us now as a people leader, and when I was not a people leader, my people leader wanted to make sure that everyone was heard, and we all had an opinion, and we all added value to the conversation. And again, we're expecting our employees to be proactive, to be engaged, and not to be hesitant to speak up. Okay, so this is the first Q&A break, first out of 4. So if there's any questions already in the chat box, or if anyone has a question that they want to ask, by all means, I'm all ears. Or everything is crystal clear. Okay, going once. Okay, Manuel, you go. Oh, sorry. Someone might need to unmute Manuel.
Is this Manuel Nedved? Yeah, I see his hand up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity of learning from your experience. And first of all, what you are mentioning is already related to a job that you already have. So you were kind of transferred from the company in a different country. But could you explain a little more on your next path when you were looking for a job? Because this could be a little different from.
Yeah. No, we're definitely going to be talking about like things that you need to be aware of, things that but sometimes people are interested on, how I got here, so the first section is how I got here, and it hasn't been like, I would say a very easy road. So we need to put that out there, right? And then now we're going to get into more of the details on what I have seen as a hiring manager, that could potentially help you, Manuel, land that first job, right? Because this is the focus of this chat. But just like curiosity, sometimes I do get asked a lot. That question is like, what is your career path? What is a career path within the supply chain looks like? Do you had any challenges when you started working? Because to your point, I was lucky that I ended up with a job, but on the other hand, it wasn't a walk in the park either.
Okay, sorry for the question.
No, that's fine. Love it. Thank you so much. You're already a step ahead. Very good. Okay.
Hi everyone. Yes. My name is Sandra Leon. I'm going to read a question from Andrea. What kind of audiobooks do you recommend, Alma?
Oh, I love that question because I'm a big reader, but I used to read a lot when I was younger. But now with 3 kids and a busy job, like honestly, I wish I had the time, but now I listen to audiobooks on my way to work and from work to home. Now I got started on podcasts. So like I'm trying to, diversify a little bit, but to be honest, like don't force yourself to listen to a business book. That's really not your thing. You don't have to do it. I actually benefited from, listening to all kinds of audiobooks, fiction, nonfiction, biographies, and yeah, a short collection of stories. Is really like just like basically training your ear. You're training your ear, and you're gathering more language. You're expanding your language, you're expanding your vocabulary, and that's what you want to do. So it's basically any topic that catches your eye. And now we're in Canada, we have wonderful resources at the local library. You can download any kind of book, or you can listen to any podcast. Now I have Spotify. My kids finally got me into Spotify. So I listen to a variety of audiobooks, but now more I have moved on to podcasts. So yeah, and basically anyone that catches your eye, I'll do that. Don't stick to business books only.
Thank you. Thank you for your advice.
Okay.
I have another question. How do you manage stress?
How can you manage stress? That's a good one. If anyone has a secret, by all means, feel free to share it. We're all together here, but you know, I have taken a few hobbies throughout the years to help me manage that stress level. So most recently, I'll have to share that my husband and I bought a travel trailer. Yes, the travel trailer that you have to pull with an F-150. Yeah, that's what we got, you know, and it has been a whole learning for me. Even had to hitch the trailer, what the trailer needs to contain, and you know, like how to get it from point A to point B is a massive thing. So you know, like maybe that's adding stress to my life now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe that's not. No, I'm kidding. Like once you go camping, is like honestly, you see the beauty of Canada, and then you kind of relax and enjoy. Okay, so it's basically what you know yourself better, right? Is not a one thing. Is, you know, for some people is walking, watching Netflix, you know, whatever is like exercising, please also don't forget about exercising. But it's basically whatever strategy you want to apply in your life.
Thank you, Alma. I have another question here from William Ocampo. When you moved to Canada, which was your current position in Mexico, and for which position do you apply in Canada?
That's a great question. Thank you, William. So what happened there, I was already, and this is a good learning. Thank you, William, because I was already a people leader in Mexico as a supply chain manager, you know, and the job I got in Canada was an individual contributor role as a project manager. So basically you can call it a demotion, and you might be right, because, you know, it was really a job with less complexity, less scope. I didn't have any people reporting to me. On the other hand, I achieved the objective of coming to Canada with some sort of job. So I couldn't complain. It took me about maybe 3 to 4 years to get back to a manager role, but sometimes that's the price we have to pay, right? To get where we want to be. Okay, so Sandra, I think we need to move on to the next stage of the presentation. So any questions, please keep adding questions to the chat as we move to the next section, okay? So now, okay, so here we go. Manuel, pay attention. I'm gonna quiz you after. So getting an opportunity to interview and why networking is so important. So I wanna, first of all, congratulate all of you because you're already here. So that means that you're already getting, you know, maybe a chance to even network in this kind of setting. So how to get an opportunity to interview, and is really the most challenging part of your employment journey is going to be getting an opportunity to interview, because it's not what you know, it's who you know. So lots of opportunities, if not most of them, are available through networking. Okay, not necessarily the job sites, because, you know, I have met people that applied to everything that moves, anything and everything, right? And then what happens is, I don't know, you guys would see that or have known that, but on LinkedIn, I have seen the recruitment site, and you apply to multiple jobs in the same company. The system actually flags the recruiter to say, this individual has applied to 15 jobs in your company. So you might think that the most times that you apply, the better. I will say apply to targeted jobs. Don't over apply, because that's also not great for you. But going back to the networking, you know, 34% of recruiters consider referrals the best source of hire. Okay, so there's definitely opportunities there in terms of networking. So how to get an opportunity to interview? I came up with a list, and this is my list. You need to feel self-confident on your abilities and experience, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one is gonna believe in yourself. And I see it because I'm a hiring manager, so I see all the candidates that are coming in. Some candidates are more self-confident than others and present very well. Some candidates are not, and I can tell that they're doubting even themselves. So please, you have gotten here, you need to believe in all the things that you have, all the knowledge you have acquired throughout your career. Okay, have a professional resume, or have someone to proofread it. There shouldn't be any typos, there shouldn't be any grammatical errors. And the way that you call out your resume, please focus on quantifiable accomplishments and results. Not just what I really couldn't care less about what you did on your prior job. I want to know what you accomplished. I basically was able to reduce the slow moving and obsolete inventory by 50% or $2 million in collaboration with finance and the commercial team and planning. So that's an example. So I want to know what you did and what you accomplished, to make sure that I understand what you can do for me if I hire you, not just the task. So what I'm looking for always is numbers, percentages, improvements. So that's what I want to see, quantifiable results. Now, you don't remember, it's okay to approximate. Now, it's going to be exact, but feel free to approximate, right? No one is going to call your prior company to check, but I mean, don't overstate it, but at least try to quantify your results. You have to have a strong online presence, and LinkedIn is very much the #1 professional networking site. So please have a complete profile. You were not born yesterday, so you have a lot of people that know you, that have worked with you. So try to ask for recommendations. Find yourself a mentor, and this is an important one. And Hispanotech has a wonderful mentoring program that I'm hoping some of you took advantage of it. Otherwise, please do be on the look for the next iteration of the mentoring program. Be open to accept constructive criticism and feedback, because that's what I said, right? It's really sometimes hard for us to accept that when we're not meeting the mark, but we have to challenge ourselves and be open to that. Number 6, if there's something that is holding you back, for example, and I have had examples of this with other folks, example, communication skills or English skills, right? You have to be able to communicate in the workplace. You have to tackle that with a passion. So incremental improvements accumulate over time. So recognize that this is holding you back and do something about it. As William already asked me the question, do not discard opportunities because they're not at the same level that you were used to back in your home country. Okay, so with a lot of skills, your hard work and the perseverance, you're gonna get back or gain back on track. So even if and this is, to be fair, this is something that is not just Canadian. I also did it in Mexico when I was working for an automotive manufacturer, and I really wanted to move to somewhere else, a bigger company, and they offered me an opportunity that I wasn't that excited about, but I said, you know what, I'm gonna take it. I took it. 6 months into it, the actual job that I wanted became vacant, and I was able to transfer to that job that I really wanted, but I was already there. It's a lot easier, honestly, once you get into a company. Even if this is not the job that you really want to see yourself like having for the next 15 years, it's fine. We all understand that as hiring managers, and no one is expecting you to stay there for many, many years. So we can always help you move to where you want to be. Okay, but try to just at least get your foot in the door. Be very punctual and be very prepared for your interview. Nothing puts me off more than someone that basically shows up late for their interview. It's an awful way to start an interview. And be very precise. Again, try to answer the interviewer questions in this format. And Catherine and the team have a copy of this presentation, so you want it, they can absolutely share it with you. So this is how you answer an interview question. Okay, so situation, you give the interviewer the situation, what happened, the tasks that you took, the actions that you took to handle that situation, and what were the results. Okay, and I said, don't be afraid to rehearse your answers. I remember when I was interviewing for that project manager role here in Canada, it was probably one of the most important interview of my life, because that was going to be where it was going to be decided if the company was going to help me relocate or not. So I went to a coffee shop. I typed them a lot of examples. I practiced, and then I was able to come out like sharp, as I said, sharp, concrete, and concise answers. Attend local networking events. I don't have to give you this tip because you're here, so that's excellent. And it's a very good way to meet individuals from diverse industries. And you never know who you can meet, and they might be able to help you with your job search. Find and join a Canadian professional associations related to your profession. So this is where the Supply Chain Canada for supply chain professionals or APICS might be helpful. Now, I know networking is not for everyone, and people are like, well, this is very awkward. I don't know what to say. I don't like to do small talk. It feels fake. The good news is once you expand your perspective and better define your objectives, it is going to be possible. I'm not saying for you to love networking, but at least to enjoy it, and or don't feel like you're being forced to network. So why is networking important to your success, and why you have to put an effort? Because you want to have more advocates out there. You want to increase the number of people that you know and who know you. You can turn to more people for help and advice. I have people that network with me, and I'm always sharing career opportunities. So then that way is, okay, I know that Alma share this career opportunity, so I'm going to tell her that I'm interested. It can be very helpful because, I guess the more champions you have, the better. You can meet influential people in your field and learn about someone's career, someone's career develop over time, and adopt some other tips and tricks. And people that network very effectively are more likely, this is a study, are more likely to be offered new opportunities because then they make the time and effort to improve their networks, and they're more likely also to be promoted. So networking helps you exchange ideas and knowledge, and you contribute to other people and other people contribute to you. So it's very reciprocal. Now, how to unleash the power of networking? In 3 steps. I didn't say 3 steps, just 3 steps. Step number 1, you have to nurture existing relationships because you already have a network. All of you have a network, right? So start reaching out to people you already know, which are all the people that I'm listed here. And it's right now we're in the middle of the pandemic, or I don't know, for some people the pandemic is over, but don't be afraid to say, I just want to check in with you, see how you did, how are you doing, etc. Email, phone, messenger, LinkedIn. Okay, so that's one. So use the network that you already have. Now be open to grow new relationships, and meeting new people, not very hard, but you need to have a plan. So who do you want to meet? Those are very strategic connections. And if you look at companies that you want to join, or organizations that you want to volunteer for, or be part of, that's something that you have to do some homework. Now, this might make some people uncomfortable, but in reality, the information that you put out there about yourself is public already. So like, what do you have to lose with connecting with other people, right, outside of your immediate circle? So I'm connected with a lot of people on LinkedIn, and that's my platform of choice. Facebook, I live for my actual friends and family. LinkedIn is more for my broader network of supply chain and other professionals, right? So what is the commonality? If you went with someone that attended the same university, people that work in the same company, the same industry, they have the same profession as you, same home country, you went to a conference, you actually went to this networking event, and then you're seeing who's attending, and then you send them LinkedIn invitations, you can absolutely do that, okay? So as I said, anytime two humans start communicating, there's potential of joining each other's network. So that's step number 2. Step number 3, you need to allocate some time to network online. Definitely, like, now we're becoming more of a virtual world. So invest, if you don't want to invest 30 minutes, that's fine, invest 5. You don't have to invest 30. But look for people on LinkedIn that you haven't connected yet, but send them an invite. Follow interesting people. Share articles that relate to your role or industry, but do add some flavor to it. Comment on interesting articles related to your industry, especially you want to catch someone's eyes. That's something that I have done, and other people have done on my posts. Congratulate people on their birthdays, work anniversary, and you want to connect with someone. This is very important. please mention what is the commonality or the reason you want to connect with that someone. If I just get a request to connect and I don't even know who this person is, like I may or may not accept it. But you're saying, you know what, Alma, we're both from Mexico and we work in supply chain, and this is something that I wanna be more connected with you. Like, I mean, at least say something, right? And then that will maximize your chances of the connection being accepted. Okay. So this is just kind of a little bit on networking and how to get an opportunity to interview. There's a lot of work that someone said it, that it's almost like a full-time job to find a job. And it's completely right. It's absolutely right. So, okay, Sandra or Charlie, what's the next question? You might be on mute, Sandra.
Hi, everybody. So, next question from Carlos. What percentage of your professional hires are from internal referrals? For example, where an existing employee refers somebody they know?
That's a good question. Let me see. I will answer that question a little differently. Usually when we have a vacancy, is that either or like we promoted someone, that someone went to another department. Sometimes we do end up losing people to other companies, but I would say that maybe a third might be internal promotions, a third might be people that coming from the outside that are being recommended by someone, and maybe a third might be people that are just submitting their applications. Yeah, it's like roughly, right? It's not very exact.
Mm, It makes sense. Thank you. From Jose, would you be willing to hire someone with an open work permit, but who doesn't have a permanent resident in Canada?
That's a good question. Usually, the only prerequisite that we have is that individual is authorized to work in Canada. That's it. That's basically the first question of every interview. So I would say yes. I wouldn't see why not if it's an open work permit, right?
Okay, thank you. Another from Jose. How is this perceived in companies according to your experience?
What is perceived?
The well, you already answered the first question to hire someone with an
With
open
an
work
open
permit.
work permit.
Yes.
I I cannot speak on behalf of other companies, so I can only speak on behalf of me as a hiring manager, but I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Okay. Another question. Did you use work agencies or where did you find the job opportunities?
um so where do you find job opportunities? Usually, we right now, I mean, not to say, but I mean, Apotex currently has over 100 vacancies in our career site. So if you know exactly the kind of company you want to work for, definitely you can go to their career site. LinkedIn is actually wonderful on that, where they're always giving me recommendations. They have like an alert functionality. You want to follow a particular company or follow a particular level, a particular role, LinkedIn can send you alerts daily, weekly, etc. So I will say that there's multiple sources, but I will focus more on the company that you want to join, the career site, and LinkedIn alerts.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Another one. Let's do
Uh,
another one.
Yes, sure. If I got reach out from a recruiter about a job opening and I don't have enough years of experience, should I invest time to prepare for this interview?
Yes, of course. Don't get yourself out of the race. Let other people get you off the race. Do not get yourself off the race. Okay. Do not discount yourself or the experience. Sometimes I think someone was, Charlie, you were saying that the hiring managers, like before the session started, Charlie and I were chatting, and he was saying that sometimes the job postings have a long list of requirements, but
Yeah.
so it's true. It's true. I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes it's true, but we can compromise. Absolutely, we can compromise. One thing is to ask for the stars, and then we land on the moon or something like that. But so most definitely we can compromise. Yeah. So do not take yourself off the race. Go for it. Okay.
Okay. Thanks for the
Alrighty.
information.
So
That's all.
moving on to the section number 3, preparing for an interview and what you wish you have known beforehand. And sometimes this is like hard learnings, but it's better to know now than later. Okay. There's multiple skills in high demand, and I'm not going to go through them, but just some of the ones that are I would say my favorites. Communication, resiliency, emotional intelligence, teamwork, problem solving, and decision making. Some of the examples of job posting requirements, Charlie, as we're talking about, right? Like communication skills, influence, resiliency, presentation, and facilitation skills, analysis, reports. So there's a long list of job posting requirements. But here's the situation. So what are the top mistakes? So when someone walks through the door, or virtually, when someone connects virtually, the way you dress, the way you act, the way you walk through the door, it's already making an impression. I'm not saying it's something bad or good, but it's just making an impression. Did this person made an effort? This person was like all the clothes were wrinkled, it was like, the way you're acting. It can definitely be an influence, and you're going to let's say be hired or not. There are some mistakes. I will say that I have found some people where I ask them, why apotex, why do you want this job, and etc. So they cannot express exactly why. They don't necessarily know what we do, and they didn't necessarily take 5 minutes to go to the website and read a few things. There's actually a very easy way to relate to the interviewer. Is you go to that company's website. Usually most of the companies have either a mission statement or values or whatever that is. If you go through it and then you're sprinkle or inject them into the conversation or your examples, guess what? You're just creating an initial rapport with your interviewer. Okay, so be on the look for that. And then one of the biggest mistakes is failing to make eye contact. So that's something that be on the look for. And I know for some people that are more like introverts, they really don't want to make eye contact, but this is also important. And then, and I don't think I have seen many of these, but apparently this was also a big driver. Having a bad sitting posture and appearing like, you're too lazy, etc. Right? So like you want to be like your spine is straight, and then you're leaning a little forward, showing that you're interested, and showing that you're engaging with the interviewer. Okay. Now, some going back to the common mistakes. What I want to see from someone that I'm going to be working with, I want to see some personality, some warm, meaning that it's not just what they did, but actually, maybe sometimes injecting a little bit of like, like not please don't make the whole 45 minutes interview a big joke, but like smile, and maybe laugh a little bit, and make a little fun of yourself. That's fine. No one wants to no, or I would say not people don't want to work with someone that takes themselves too seriously. Okay. Or number 8, talking ill of your ex-employer. That's a big no-no. Although I'm not saying that your former boss treated you perfectly, but coming into the interview and talking ill about your ex-employer is a big flag, right? Because if you did that, you're gonna do the same about like potentially on the company that you're being hired. And then this is a very key question that I do ask, is why do you want to join our organization? If the person is saying, well, I wanted to join a pharmaceutical company, it's like, wow, is there any pharmaceutical company will do then? Or I want to join Apotex because I identify with your values of collaboration and perseverance and courage. Like that is a more, I would say, more kind of what I want to hear in terms of aligning with our values, right? And then do conduct some research on the employer and the job opportunity, for sure. Okay. All righty. So more questions. Time for more questions. So I don't know, Charlie or Sandra, who's next? Sandra, you're on mute, okay? Yes, yes, whoever wants to chime in can do it. No problem.
I have a question for you in this topic. And what advice do you have for behavior type of questions? Questions that involve results from personal experience, such as, tell me about a time when you needed to make a decision, but you didn't have all the information, something like that.
This is perfect because this section number 4, we're gonna go straight into the interview questions and behavioral questions. So I'm gonna reserve that to section number 4.
Okay, I have another one. How many interviews did you attend?
Wow. Maybe more. I'm now the last interviewer, for a lot of the jobs, I will say from a supervisor, manager, associate director level, I'm the last interviewer, last person I'm going to see them. So not as many as before, but when I was a hiring manager, I had a bigger team of direct reports. I don't know, like I have actually done hundreds. So it's most definitely hundreds, and then some go well, some doesn't go as well, but you take the good and the bad.
Thank you. I have another one. If you can prioritize the skills on high demand, what would be the order for you?
Oh, okay, that's an interesting question. So let me just go back quickly. This is a tough one. So I think I just when I was talking about him, I didn't do it in like the left and the right. I was kind of jumping across. So I will say the same. Communication is absolutely critical to succeed in the workplace. If someone is working on something but forgets to communicate that to their boss or their peers, is like a big no-no. So of course, that's extremely important. Problem solving, we want to make sure that the person that is able to tackle different problems, and that person is going to be able to get to the solution. Emotional intelligence, right? If that person is creating havoc in the department because that person cannot manage their feelings, and that will be definitely a problem. Teamwork, we don't do anything by ourselves necessarily, so we do need to embark into sharing the load with others. So I don't know, this is a tough one. I guess that those will be my key ones, but of course there's many, right?
Okay, thank you.
Next question.
I have 2 questions here in the chat. What can it be?
We might only have time for one, so
okay, I have one. Okay, what can be a classic questions that we can ask when the interviewers ask, do you have any questions for us?
Yes, of course. That's whoever asked that question, that's a very insightful question, because sometimes I get to the end of the interview and I ask, do you have any questions? Is there anything that wasn't clear? No, all good. Okay, we part ways, and that's it. So there's many questions that you can ask to the interviewer. So one of them might be, can you please tell me, what would you consider like for me to be successful, what would you consider that, the steps that I have to take the first 30 days on the job. So like the first 30 days on the job, like if I get to the end of those 30 days, what would you like me to accomplish in order to be for you to deem me as successful? Okay, so that's like only one question, but I am more than a question. What I want to leave you with in this case is, I want you guys to ask for the job. And let me tell you what I mean, because it's not necessarily about the question. The question is a great point, but once you close into the interview, I would like for you to ask or say to the interviewer, I just want to make sure that we're clear that I'm very interested in this job and I will do whatever it takes to be successful. So I'm really, really hoping you can give me an opportunity to come in and demonstrate all my skills and put all my skills and all my abilities to use in for the success of Apotex. Or think about someone that says, no, we're good. I don't have any questions. Thank you. Bye. Like if those two candidates are, let's say, equivalent or the same, in terms of experience and skills, who do you think is going to get the job? The person that said that wanted the job and that was willing, that was committed and wanted to do all it takes, or the person that just said, no, all is good, I'm gone. I'm going to give it to the person that asked for the job, right? And I know it sounds awkward and, no one wants to do it. Therefore, I think we're leaving an opportunity on the table when we don't ask for a job. Okay. Okay. So now going into, someone was asking this question, what kind of questions are we going to be asked at the interview? One of the most important interview questions, I'm going to give you guys a lot of interview questions, and these are real life interview questions. So if I ever interview you, you're going to have a very easy job because, I do use some of these questions on my own interviews. Okay. But one of the most important ones is, what single project or task would you consider the most significant accomplishment in your career so far? Why is this so important? Right? Why is this question so powerful? You're in an interview with me and I just ask you this question, okay? So what accomplishment are you going to select to share with me? Then on the next 15 and 20 minutes, and this happens all the time, I'm gonna dig deeper and I'm gonna ask you all these other questions based on that answer, okay? What were the results? What were the biggest challenges? Where did you go the extra mile? What was your manager's style at that time? What were the aspects of the project that you truly enjoy? How you changed and grew as a person? What would you do differently if you could do it again? If you think about it, this is very powerful question. And I have spent many minutes digging into the details and trying to extract, the value from this question, okay? Other common interview questions. You're going to find this time and time again, and this is just to give you an example of the type of behavioral questions. Okay? So what about the posting that made you want to apply? Why do you want this job? You want this answer to be very catered, very much aligned to the role, to the posting, and also speak a little bit about the company. What values do you have? What skills do you have? What experience do you have that make you a good match? An example on how you work with other functional areas to develop creative ideas to solve problems. Last major crisis that you had to manage, a difficult decision that you made. And there's few that are like, what is the last time you volunteered to work on a project, even though it seemed intimidating to you? So those are questions that's when I was saying, take some time and answer those questions. Put some examples on that STAR format I was talking about, the situation, task, action, and result. Okay, put some thought behind it. Document that I have a Word document where I have actually, when I have applied for roles, I develop my examples. And there's some examples that can be actually applied to multiple questions, right? So I call these, I will say, the Swiss Army knife, of examples, because I basically, if I'm being asked about my people leadership style, I can take one of these examples and then put the spotlight on the people management, on the people leadership, right? So it's good to have multiple examples already developed. Now, congratulations, you got the job. So what then? Right? The Canadian employers have many expectations, and me as a Canadian employer, I do have a lot of expectations, but in general, there's a lot of expectations, integrity, results, no procrastination, collaboration, communication, treat order with respect and dignity. Sometimes, and I haven't found this too much. I think we're like at our level, professional level, like we're already pretty sensitized. But there might be cultures where, like, they might come up with a joke and it kind of doesn't land, and then you're like, okay, we have a kind of an HR crisis here. Being positive, can-do attitude, perseverance, that advocates for diversity, and last but not least, lots of results. So the Canadian employers expect their employees to be professional, and to maintain that performance that consistently meets or exceed the job standards. So this is definitely something that we as professionals, we really need to keep top of mind, because it's not just about getting the job, but it's also about keeping the job, and not just keeping the job, but growing and developing within the company. Okay. So yes, so we're getting to the last section of the Q&A. So now I'll take all your questions. So you want to ask your question, just raise your hand or etc. I think Alejandro had his hand raised for a while.
Hi.
Hi, Alejandro.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. And this is my question. As an international student, we just not fight with the struggle of finding a job. Also, finding a job under the NOC 0 IOV, right? So sometimes it's confusing to identify if we are applying to the correct NOC. Can you give us an advice about how to identify the NOC of the job opportunity that we are applying?
Actually, I wish I could, but I can't. I'm really not that aware of the NOC that you're talking about. So I think there might be other people that might be kind of better suited to answer that question. I have relied a lot on like JVS Toronto or Access Employment. They're organizations that are very much aware of the ins and outs of the permits and the NOCs and how to identify, but I don't think I will be qualified to give you a good advice. My apologies. Okay, I think that we have someone else that wants to ask a question.
Yes, thank you, Alma. I'm sorry, my name should be on it, not my email.
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, this is Arturo. Thank you for this
Hi,
opportunity.
Arturo.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you. I follow you on LinkedIn, so it's very nice to finally meet you. I have a question. Listen, I applied for the express entry in Canada. They have the government has this express entry, but I couldn't get the minimum punctuation requested. Maybe it's because of my age. I'm 40 years now, and I think that's kind of difficult for the express entry. But even with this situation and my age now, can I still get a job opportunity in Canada?
That's a good question, but that's I think your question is quite specific about your case, so I couldn't necessarily answer your question specifically, but what maybe I answer in a different way. I
Okay.
will say, like, maybe go through your application and see how can you increase the number of points, and that's something that might be helpful in terms of maybe taking a course or gaining experience in a different industry, in a different role, that might increase the number of points. But like getting a job from where you are without any, let's say, being authorized to legally work in Canada is going to be challenging. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it's just that it's going to be challenging.
Okay.
Thank you. I think Jose
Thank you.
Edgardo has a question.
Hi, thank you. Thank you again, Alma. My question is more related to when using the tools, LinkedIn and Indeed, for example. Sometimes you see a certain position you're interested in, and I've heard so far that you have to kind of cater the cover letter to certain experiences or certain skills that the position may have. as opposed to just having your resume particular of what you have as experience overall? Is that something that you find true?
I honestly hardly read cover letters. I
Mhm.
don't read cover letters. What I do is when I get a resume of someone, I do go and check their LinkedIn page and their profile and make sure that things match. And you're gonna ask me why anyone will say something on the resume and then there's something different on their LinkedIn profile. You'll be surprised. I got someone that on the resume said that he was a black belt, certified black belt in process excellence. And then when they went to see his profile, it was a green belt. I was like, what happened to the black belt? And we did ask him that question, and he's like, well, I haven't updated my profile, my LinkedIn profile. But we were like a little, to be fair, a little suspicious. So yeah, so make sure that both your resume and your profile match. Another thing that I would look, so I wouldn't worry too much about the cover letter. I would worry more about making sure your resume is accomplishment based and not task based, as what we're talking about. That for me, that's probably more important. And another thing that I would look into their LinkedIn profile is recommendations. I really like when other people talk about you, because sometimes to talk about ourselves is a little awkward, to be honest. But when someone else talks about you, I'm getting a sense of who you are through other people's eyes. So don't be shy, ask people for recommendations. You know a lot of people, ask them to recommend you.
Okay, thank you. And
You're
just a
welcome.
follow-up question. I know that LinkedIn allows sometimes for the in-mail option when you don't have a direct connection. Do you think that's too far into we're trying to reach sometimes when you're applying for a position?
No,
not
I answer
necessarily?
email. I answer the email.
Mhm.
Something that can help you also, and this is like a workaround on LinkedIn that I found, is
Mhm.
when you actually share the same group with the person you wanna message. If you don't wanna send them just a request to connect, but sometimes you can see which groups the person belongs to, and if you join the same group, you can actually message group members for free, so you don't have to pay for that feature. But indeed, I do reply to my messages, even if it's just a message of someone I know or a message that someone is sending me through the email.
Hi,
That is
Alma.
a good way to reach other people. Hi, Usman.
Yeah, hi. It was me who asked the question regarding uh, how to ask the questions, right? Regarding at the end of the session when the interviewer asks.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
are you ready to ask for the job? That's my question to you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll definitely ask questions, and I do ask questions. One of the common questions that I do ask is, what are the opportunities and challenges that the employer sees for the position that they are trying to recruit for?
Great. That's an excellent question. Good for you.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good.
So the question that I have now is, usually during interviews, one of the common roadblocks that I face is, at times we'll be given assignments, or we give our interview, we give our effort in terms of doing whatever exams or kind of tasks that they assign us. And after that, one thing that I notice is they don't come back, even after a week or a couple of weeks. And we give some time, and then we try to nudge and try to follow up with them, asking where are we in terms of the next steps. But again, they kind of ghost, right? So, and they don't get back. I'm not trying to be stereotypic or generalize over here, but I have seen that quite often, and I believe most of us participating here would agree with me. How do we?
No, I agree.
Yeah. So how do we overcome this? I mean, what are the suggestions or tips that you would like to give us when we face such situations? So one of the things that I started practicing is, at the end of the round, I set the expectation right with the interviewer as to what are the next steps, what are the timelines are we looking for?
Yes, that's excellent. Absolutely, Osman. And I think that's a question that all of you should ask, because you should not be left hanging, and that's very unprofessional, to leave someone hanging. But I know it happens. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. And even to be fair, in my own company, I'm pretty sure sometimes it happens. Another thing that to understand, and I'm not saying this is like I'm condoning the behavior, but let's say the talent acquisition team that we have is maybe 6 or 7 people. For one position, we receive no less than 150 resumes. So it's really, really hard, and we have hundreds of vacancies open. So it's really hard for a handful of people to manage. Not to say that they shouldn't take the time to at least let the candidate know what the status of their application is. Absolutely 100%. I'm not, you're on the right, Usman, and I think you're already doing the right things. I don't know what else to tell you, because it seems like you're very, very proactive, and you're asking the interviewer like what are the next steps and what is kind of the timing and when you're going to be making a decision. So I will say, if you haven't heard back from them by around that time, given maybe an extra week, move on. There's really no point of you going back and knocking at their door. That means they're not interested. And if honestly, if they didn't even take the courtesy of telling you that they're not interested, I wouldn't just, move on to my next opportunity. But you're doing the right thing, Susan. It's not you. Okay, who else do we have? Or do we have more questions on the chat box, Charlie and Sandra?
Yes, a few more questions. So from your work experience, each job position requires different skills, but what do you think, which are the main skills the employer is looking in a candidate?
Well, it kind of depends of the job. So I wouldn't probably be able to answer that question with only the soft skills and the interpersonal skills that we already talked about. I will say those are pretty much a standard on what we would like to see as an employer. The technical skills will vary by job, So I will say sometimes I do ask candidates questions that if they had the job description in front of them, they will be able to answer with very easily. So, for example, who are you going to be working with in terms of stakeholders? And on the job description, it says this person is going to work with finance, with customer service, with logistics. Well, I'm not sure 100%. It's like, okay, you would have read the job description. Now everything was there, right? Or what kind of skills do you think that will make you successful in this job? The job description lists the skills. So in reality, if they were just kind of had in front of them or actually spend some time going over the job description, no one should have a hard time, right? Like answering these questions. But it's kind of all depends on the job description is critical. The posting is critical. So I will say, read that back and forth, like front and center, top down, read that and become very familiar with that job description, because that's basically what we're going with. Okay.
Thank you.
What else, Charlie?
Can I ask the interviewer if there is a question I should ask you in that job interview that I did not?
Yes, absolutely. Interviewers, I know it kind of feels like they have the power, but we don't have the power. All the power. You guys have 50% of the power. We have 50% of the power. I know it feels like, well, you're gonna be the one hiring me, but I wanna have a give and take, with the person I'm interviewing. And that's what we were talking about, the personality and showing yourself, showing your character, what you stand for. Case in point, and let me hold on, let me, before I give you my example, see if the person is here, because that person said that he was going to join us. Okay, I don't see the person here, so I guess I could tell the example. But I was actually interviewing someone this week, and part of the conversation was not even related to the interview questions. We went on a tangent, and we were kind of talking about immigration and the rules and how difficult it is for him as an immigrant to land a job in Canada. So we spent a few minutes talking about that, and you know what? And it made it for I would say even a better interview, because he was able to show me kind of his belief system and what he felt it was right and wrong. And I like that. I like when people tell, like, because this is a person I'm going to be working with, right? So like, show me that person and show me your values. And it was great. Like, all the questions were great, and all the answers were great, and we're moving forward with an offer. And this is going to be the person's first job in Canada.
Okay, great. One question from Aldo. I would like to know what I can say during the interview when they ask me about the Canadian experience, because some companies require that.
Okay, this is really a sore topic for me. Because as an employer, I already got your resume. I already know that you don't have experience in Canada. And I'm the one that called you for an interview, right? So why is someone asking that question when they already know the answer, right? So like, doesn't make sense to me. And to be fair, in my whole 15 years in Canada, I have never asked this question on the Canadian experience because I already know the answer. Why would I ask you, right? So that individual that I was interviewing actually yesterday, I know he doesn't have a Canadian experience, and I was fine with it, right? So I don't know what to tell you. Again, we can be here another hour debating on, hiring practices and stuff. But personally, I just don't ask that question. I already know the answer, and you still here in front of me being interviewed, right? So I still wanted to talk to you.
Okay, more questions from Andrea Salas. Recommendations for a virtual interview?
Yeah, besides being punctual, I mean, there's really no, you can actually log in 2 or 3 minutes before. You don't have to log in 10 minutes before, because sometimes I'm in a meeting and then it gets me like MS Teams tells me that someone is already waiting for me in the lobby. So kind of a little like that could potentially stress the interviewer to say, oh my God, that person is already waiting for me, but I'm in the middle of a meeting. So be punctual, but like don't be so punctual that you're like 10 minutes before. Logging in 1 or 2 minutes before is perfectly fine, but do log in. Have some lighting in your room. Don't be backlit. Some people, when you have the window behind you, you ended up being backlit if their sun is up, right? So like just try to set up yourself where there's good lighting. Invest in some earbuds. Is really cheap, and you have better quality of sound, because sometimes half the battle is just having the technology to work. And can you hear me? Can you see me? No, I cannot hear you. Let me call again. Let me go from my cell phone. And by the time you get the interview up and running, it's already 10 minutes into the interview. This is cutting into your time to shine. This is your time to shine. And out of the 50 minutes, you already gave away 10 minutes because of technology issues. Okay? So just be ready, on that virtual setting, to have the best quality of sound that you can, a quiet place, good lighting. I'm actually have extra lighting here so you guys can see me well. I using my earbuds. So just try to and make yourself comfortable, right? Like I'm wearing sweatpants, so I feel pretty comfortable. What else?
Okay, from Usman, what should be the traits that we can speak about when we are asked about our challenge?
Sorry, what was that? Can
The,
you repeat the question?
the traits that we can
What traits should I speak about when I talk when the traits to talk about what?
Our challenge.
Or talent.
Our challenge.
Like challenge?
Yes. What we are asked about when we are asked about our challenge.
Usman, did you ask that question? Can you explain a little more what you mean? Yeah, and unmute Usman. I just need to expand. I don't want to answer the give you the wrong answer.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Carlos. So basically we are asked about our strengths and weaknesses, right? So I should have told weaknesses instead of challenges. Yeah.
So okay, got it. No, got it, Usman. Got it. Sorry, I wasn't sure what you meant with the challenges. Okay, strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so that's a very typical question. There's really not a good way to answer the question. So just kind of give the interviewer something that like everything is gonna sound either like self-serving, or it's like, well, you know what, I really have to have a better work and family balance because I work really hard, like it's not gonna sound right. So I don't know, maybe Google some examples, like at the end of the day, that's really like not, I don't even ask that question anymore. Like I used to ask that question, to be fair, many many years. And then like maybe 10 years ago, I discontinued the question. I wasn't getting anything from it. I'd rather go into the behavioral, example. So anyway, okay. What else? Who else? Charlie, more questions. For
From
Sally.
Question, Alma, here from Lisette, I guess. Do you recommend taking job opportunities that are offered through a contract, for example, 1-year contract?
Oh, yes, take it. There's really nothing wrong with it. And you know how many people started as contracts and then I hired full time? Many. If they show their talent in the organization, doesn't really matter how you enter the organization. I'm going to hire you. I'm going to make sure you don't leave, right? So by all means, if that's the way to get your foot on the door, do not look down, because some people make that mistake. But guess what? This is on your advantage, because now you can take advantage of that opportunity and enter the organization that you want to enter through a contract. Nothing wrong with it. I would totally take it. And then what happens, maybe 8 months down the road, 9 months down the road, let's say nothing opens in your current organization. You already acquire experience. You are already working. And if you find another full-time opportunity somewhere else, more power to you. Okay? So do not let those go.
Thank you, Alma.
What else, Sandra and Charlie?
Yeah, from Paulina, what are the requirements and skills that you look in someone to join your team? Do you require Canadian experience in your field for an entry job?
No Canadian experience. No, that's not a requirement for me. The skills or the traits we already talked about, so I'm not going to repeat them, but I'll give you one example. I had someone that was a Canadian permanent resident, and he was in India. Actually, he was living and working in India, and he was ready to make the move. His wife was pregnant, and he was just kind of 3 months before she was giving birth. He was ready to move to Canada. He started sending his resume to a lot of employers, and I saw it, and it was like no Canadian experience, of course, and maybe like 7 pages long. So I had to overcome that challenge myself, but it's like read all the 7 pages. But there was actually the profile we were looking for. So and this was maybe 5 years ago. We had and now it's like Zoom is very common and MS Teams is very common, right? Like before it wasn't. It was kind of a novelty, but we interviewed him via Zoom or whatever the system was at that time, or Skype. And I hired him sight unseen. The first time I met him was when he actually landed in Canada and show up at the office. But yeah, absolutely. But like you definitely, like, I don't think that's really a problem, right? You demonstrated the skills that you need to demonstrate, you had the experience that we require, and I'm really hoping that Canadian, as a general, Canadian employers are being more open to hire that skill set. And from my own experience, we have hired so many people without the Canadian experience. And like even in HR, like you would think, wow, like HR, the regulations we just hired someone from India, that came to Canada, and he has HR background, and the HR organization hired him, and he's doing a fantastic job. Maybe some adjustment on the integration part, but other than that, we're all very willing to help out. I think Eric has a question.
Hello, Emma. Thank you.
Hi.
And thank you, Hispanotech, to hold this meeting. Yeah, my question is, well, I have more than 10 years of marketing experience in the pharmaceutical industry.
Mhm.
So, and I'm just a recent graduate from Conestoga College.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Actually, well, my question is, I know that I'm applying to as many jobs as I can, because I saw there's a lot of opportunities in my field, but there's a requirement that I think that it will, and actually I'm struggling right now with that requirement, which is that they are asking for knowledge about the Canadian healthcare system. So I know that you have experience in the pharmaceutical industry. So if you could give me a piece of advice about where can I find this kind of information, and well, you know, in the marketing, from the marketing point of view, there's that you have to be aware about the regulatory environment, and also you have to be aware of how the sales or how the sales environment is in this field. So if you can give me a piece of advice, it would be great.
Okay, considering that we're kind of at the top of the hour, but Eric, so message me on LinkedIn and I'll be very happy to send you a few links of Canadian associations that you might want to get in contact with, or conferences potentially that you can access, or there's definitely associations that provide a lot of information on their website. So it might take some work, it might take some homework actually from you, but I think definitely there's knowledge that you can acquire. So
okay.
Again, congratulations on your graduation. I know it's not easy.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so they were kind of at the top of the hour. So I don't know, Catherine, if maybe you want to have another Carlos, Charlie, or Sandra, maybe another question, or
sorry about that. Welcome to my house, and the dogs are barking and going crazy about it.
Hey,
So if you don't
environment, we shouldn't be surprised anymore. Honestly, like at this point, we're just gonna roll with it, right?
See, every time I try to talk. So anywho, what I was gonna say, if you have a couple of minutes, then we can go through some, a couple of questions, and then
I honestly don't mind. I mean, we can stay a few more minutes. No, I don't mind.
Charlie or Sandra, if you have anything else to share, or if anyone wants to raise their hand, I can definitely unmute you.
And yes, Usman, absolutely. You want a copy of the presentation? By all means, I already provided it to Hispanotech. And I think this session is also being recorded, so you can do a playback. But absolutely, the presentation is yours to keep, no problem.
One more question. Yep. So from Leo, how to answer the question of salary expectation?
That's a good question. And you know what? I'm of two minds, and I have been back and forth on this one as throughout the years. At the beginning was like giving my salary no problem and salary expectations, and then later is like, no, I think I want to wait for make sure that it's a fair offer. But now I think now I'm back into set your expectations. Do set your expectations, because when people set their expectations from the beginning, then definitely we don't waste your time as an employer, and the company doesn't waste their time either, because I have had people that their expectations are definitely outside the range of the job that the posting that they're applying for. But if I know their expectations and I know their skill set, I'm like, you know what, this role is definitely not for you, but I have this other vacancy, at a different level that I think you might be better suited. So is that something that might interest you? Okay, so I'm able to actually do more than if I didn't know what the expectations were. So I will say that try to provide a range, but don't make it a very wide range, because if you tell me I want to make like from 100 to 130, that's a very wide range. Maybe tighten it up a little bit, like, from 100 to 110. I think that's a good gives, and usually we try to land if it fits with the job profile, and I'm able to have that flexibility. Then we I usually aim for like a middle ground, let's say 105, something like that, so I have a little bit of room in terms of like for negotiation, etc. Right? And so that's kind of I will say, do give a range, and I think it will save you the time, and you don't have to go through the process, and then at the end it's like, no, that's not the salary I wanted, you're paying too little, and then you already wasted all your time and energy, right? I think, Usman, you have I will say one of the last questions of the night.
It's actually not a question.
Oh, no?
I wanted to actually address the question that the previous person has asked regarding salary expectation. So a couple of things that I do when somebody asks for my salary expectation, I put the question back to the person asking me. Because usually in Canada, unlike in the country that I come from, some of the job postings disclose explicitly what the salary range is for that
Some of
position.
them do. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And for those which do not do, I just bring this as an example and tell them if they can tell what's the budget for that position is.
That
And
is very true, Usman. Yeah.
yeah, and in
No, for sure.
50% of the cases, I have seen people coming back with telling what the range is.
Yes.
So I'm in a
yes.
better position and not underquoting my value, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually a very good point. Thank you, Usman, for that contribution, because sometimes it's very fair, when the candidate, remember what I said, that you also have power. You do have power, as an employer. If I'm talking to you, if I'm reaching out to you, is because I saw something on your profile that I like, right? So take advantage of that power and do ask, can you please provide me with the salary range for this position? And as Usman said, some companies would do it, but some companies will provide it. And then you're going to be like, well, this role is paying, between 50 and 70. And really my expectation is 90. So I'm really not going to be wasting your time or the company's, right? So I think that's fair game. Thank you, Usman, for that contribution.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Okay. Anything
I
else?
would definitely add to that question and to the preparation for everyone that is about to look for a job, either if you're a newcomer or looking to change the one that you have, but do your research. Look about the company. You alluded to it, Alma. Go online. Everything is available in the World Wide Web. So you can definitely find salary expectation ranges. You can definitely find what other employees have talked or said about the company, which usually is as well extremely important, right? You want to make sure that you're making the right decision for you and not only just for the company. So that's that. It was an amazing presentation. Everyone has been, over the moon. Definitely sending thank you notes on the chat. Alma, we really appreciate you. You are a true role model. Please continue to share, obviously, on your experience, because I know that it is extremely valuable for everyone here and for the people that they know. So I'm pretty sure that that presentation is going to be as well shared with a broader group eventually, as it has just so many insights and great tips. For everyone, thank you for taking time off your days and sharing or spending this evening with us. If you have any further questions, feel free obviously to message us directly. Please stop by our Hispanotech website, take a look at what we have to offer if it's of your interest. Subscribe, become part of this amazing community, and looking forward for another opportunity.
Thank you, Catherine, Charlie, Sandra, Carlos. You guys are great, and I appreciate you inviting me to share some experiences with Hispanotech members. It's really my pleasure, and thanks again for organizing and all you do, for the community, because it's really a lot of work. I know, because I volunteer in many places, so I know it's a lot of work. So thank you all for volunteering and making these events possible. We really appreciate it.
All right. Have a great evening, you all. Bye.